Paris and London.
But I can't get enough of this shot. I can't get enough of this.
Yes, today we have an opportunity to speak to the author of the beautiful and heavy book right in our hands here. We are at the Latitude Hotel in Machinde, and we request him to give us a preamble about what the book is about.
As soon as I got into photography, I realized that the Rift Valley is a very significant part to play across the whole of Africa. And we always treat the Rift as a piece of geology. It's something that's tearing Africa apart. Volcanoes that go all the way from Ethiopia right down to Mozambique. But we're here right in the heart of the Rift Valley. The pearl of the Rift Valley, really, if you want to call it that, which is in Uganda, has got, and it's such a special part of the Rift Valley. We've got the chimpanzees and the gorillas that are here because of the volcanoes of the Rift Valley. You've got the deep lakes, Murchison Falls. All these are elements of the Rift Valley. And this book is showcasing the best parts of the Rift Valley, right from Ethiopia right down to Mozambique. It's ecology, it's the geology, it's the greatest mammal abundance on the planet, biodiversity, but it's also culture, and of course there's a bit of the Anthropocene, you know, the environmental degradation, the challenges of man living in the Rift Valley. 300 million people move in and out of the Rift Valley every single day. And so those challenges have to be addressed, and what are we going to leave for the future? So this book is a opus magnum. It's a large 3-kilogram book. It's taken 17 years of photographs in there, so it's a lifelong work. It sits on a coffee table and it's meant to sort of bring the whole room together, celebrating the significance of the Rift Valley, how it connects all of us and how interconnected we all are with the Rift Valley. And you know, if we just look at Uganda, a very special part of the Rift Valley, how it thrives on what the Rift offers. Deep lakes with fish and abundance of food, the wildlife which translates into tourism. So those are very relevant to us in Uganda and to so many other parts of the countries that are affected by the Rift Valley.
What would you say was the motivation for you to start on this project?
The motivation to start on this project was really based on the fact that as a photographer, I got to explore large parts of Africa, and I was always traveling to places that were inspiring to me. And one day, sitting on the banks of the Zambezi, I realized, you know, I've actually photographed all the great parts of the Rift Valley. And this is the story that needs to be told, is the significance of the Rift Valley, because people see it in isolation. You might be living in Nairobi, you think the Rift is just the piece of the escarpment living in front of you, or you in the Virunga Mountains, you think Bwindi is the Rift Valley, but it's so much greater than that. And I wanted to share that we are all connected via this piece of geology. And that was the motivation, really, was to share that and the fact that I had all the photographs from it.
Where did the journey start? Where did it take you and where did it end?
The journey of photographing has been across the whole continent. I've been very fortunate. 23 years I've traveled the whole continent from Ethiopia to Mozambique and sort of everywhere along the Rift Valley in between. But it really started in 2002 when, as a photographer, I had to go and photograph the great wildlife areas of Africa. And so I set off on a 7-month journey, living in a Land Rover, photographing, and that was the start of the real journey.
Okay, and what has been the journey like, putting together the content that we are going to just read about and see in this book?
You know, as a photographer, you just photograph what you see. You're curious, you're an observer, and that's great. You collect material, and that's really nice. But the real other benefit of it has been meeting the people along the way, the tribes people, the living in the remote areas, working with them, generating trust, allowing you to be brought into their homes and getting amazing footage and behind the scenes content. And that really has been very special about it. Building relationships is the biggest thing for getting consent and also then getting a photograph that speaks to the human connection. You can take photographs of people without their consent, but you're not going to get the human connection. And I learned that very quickly because I grew up as a wildlife photographer. And wildlife, if you take a photograph, no one's commenting or no one's feeling aggrieved if you pull the camera out, they don't mind. Where with humans, if you walk up into a tribal area and you just pull out a camera, I mean, that's the worst way to start. So my principle was the 80-20 principle, where when I engaged with tribes like the Samburu, and more specifically with the Omo Valley tribes, the Suri, the Mercy, the Hamar, the Dasanech, 80% of the time I would go in and engage rather than actually just bring up a camera. The iPhone is a great connector, especially when you don't have a way of communicating. Your local guide is a great connector. So we've worked with some really local guides, and I'm personally very fond, I have a lot of thanks to the many local guides because they help you bridge that connection. But the iPhone being the fact that you can show pictures of similar children ages and so on and so forth, and you can show your home back home, their home, and so on. And then everyone starts relaxing, and then you can take your photographs. But secondary to that is, I mean, I'm invested in what I do as I travel around Africa. So some of the places I've gone back to 5 or 6 or 7 times. And one area with the Suri, we've started a project there. And that's a mother tongue project. So there's mother tongue education. We brought an NGO in, we've raised funds. And so now when I return in February, I'm like a friend. Yeah. And so taking photographs is secondary. They understand that I'm there to get photographs, right. But there's been a great reciprocity. Yeah. And that's very important to me. And we've done that in other areas like with the Mercy, where we understand the value of where they are, and they're the owners of that land. So you are coming to visit that land. And once you understand that, then it cannot be a transactional relationship. It's got to be a mutual relationship. So I've been very sensitive to that, and I've also understood that I'm here for a long time. I'm not a fly-by-night in and out. I've been doing this for 23 years. So if I burn bridges, it's not going to bode me well into the future at all.
Okay, what would you point at as the stick-out point, the big moments for you during these?
Some of the expeditions I've done into the remote areas and in volcanoes have been really incredible, and I think being on top of Oludonyo Lengai in Tanzania, it's a very extreme volcano to climb, and when I got on top, the Rift Valley played out below you is just one of the most beautiful scenes, in that you can see the Serengeti plains. The ash from the volcano has nourished those plains. You see this escarpment, you see Lake Natron filled with flamingos, and you see 10,000-year-old footprints all played out below you. And you realize that this is almost like where it all began. You can see so many great elements of the Rift Valley. So that has been a real standout moment. But 10 minutes after that scene, beautiful sunlight as the sun was setting, a storm whipped in and I didn't get one photograph for the rest of the time I was there.
So would like to appreciate your journey. Where does the photography journey start for you? And how did it start? The
photography journey, one day I picked up a camera. I didn't know how to use it. I thought, let me try and figure out how this device actually works. And I picked it up, I read a book, and once I started photographing, I brought in my wildlife background. I'd been into conservation beforehand, and I married those two together, and there was no stopping me from there. I was just so inspired by this device, this camera, this format and this medium, and I wanted to photograph forever. And
how old were you then?
That was the year 2000. I was living in Pretoria, South Africa, where I come from now. And so I'm still there. 23 years ago, I was 27 years old then, and I decided that was going to be my career path, was living as a photographer. Yeah. Okay,
what are some of the communities you've visited and have stayed with you?
One is northern Kenya with the Turkana and the Samburu and the Kalacha in those areas, and then up in the Omo Valley. We've done some great work with some of the tribes, the Mercy and the Surma, or the Suri, where repeatedly we've gone back and developed such wonderful relationships that when I go there, and I'm going there in February now, I'm greeted as a friend.
It is available for sale through Signature Africa safaris. Duncan is the main contact, Duncan Kiiza, my friend. So look out for the book, buy it, and delve into the beauty of the Rift Valley and beyond. Where's the Uganda in here?
Oh yes, definitely. Your chimps and gorillas are in here, that's for sure. This is the first step of the international tour of the Rift Scar of Africa. And I'm thrilled because Uganda itself is really in the heart of the Rift Valley.
What is your experience like when you drop back, especially interacting with the gorillas and the primates in Uganda?
I love primates. Yeah, spending time with primates is incredible. It's they've got so much energy. They are so life-like and to us, and so we see we can learn a lot from them, the way they behave, the way they interact, and so spending time with them teaches us a lot about how tough it would be if we didn't have the mod cons of today. Yeah.
They say that wildlife photography calls for patience.
Yes.
Patience. What other tips can you give an upcoming wildlife photographer or someone who wants to practice?
Yeah, you do need a lot of patience to become a wildlife photographer, that's for sure, 100%. And yeah, I think it's one of those things where you persevere. It's not a type of profession where if you're a doctor or an accountant, when you start, they accept you into the trade as an accountant or a doctor. It's one where you have to slowly develop your skill sets, slowly develop. Even if you've been to photography school, your body of work needs to grow and grow and grow. And so therefore you need a tough skin and you need to have a long-term vision. You know that in 10 years' time you're going to be a much better photographer than you are now, and in 20 years' time you're going to be even better. And it's weird to think that right at the beginning, to think, you think your photographs are great, but they are always going to get better. And that's a very important element that you are going to improve as an artist, as a photographer, and as a creative.
What gear do you use?
Yeah, I'm not really a gear person per se, in the sense of I like to make the camera work for me, but I've always only used Nikon cameras, and I dabbled in trying to change, but that didn't ever happen simply because and the Nikon cameras become so embedded in your hand. You want to be able to move them about and change them around so much, so it's pretty straightforward to use them. And then that's where it ends for me, is I've used Nikon cameras, I like using them, and they're robust, they work in the field, and I know them backwards by now.
Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, thanks.
We also have the opportunity to speak to Mr. Duncan Kiiza, the founder and proprietor of Signature Africa, a man who literally tells stories about culture and community, not in Uganda alone, but the world. I've been to places thanks to his photography, and he invited me here today to be part of this book launch, and I suspect he was present when some of the pictures in this book were being taken.
Yeah, sure. Our operation runs in almost about 40 countries in Africa, and we're not limited by any boundaries. We have traveled, put our foot on the ground in all these places, coming down from Ethiopia, going down to Congo, coming down to South Sudan, going up South Sudan, even the Nuba Mountains, Kalahari Desert, talk about Botswana. We also do, more or less, we're specialists for East and Central Africa. So Shem is one of my clients that I have traveled with. He also runs an operation out of South Africa, but also is a very good photographer, and he's also keen on sharing his journeys that he has traveled through with the world through his books and the images that he shares. And he also happens to lead some high net worth individuals, which in some instances we've accompanied those guests together, on the off the beaten paths. And it's a pleasure to have him here launch his book in Kampala, which shows how much easy we are connected to him. And I hope everyone enjoys the evening.
Albert, give us about a little bit about your experience so far.
There were many fascinating shots in it. One that has stayed with me, and I've been going back to that image several times, is one of Maasai walking along an arid location. The sun seems to hit them from an angle, and the photography has been taken from above. The photo has been taken from above, which has then given an effect of the shadows being taller than the actual subjects themselves. So the subjects are miniature, and the shadows are longer than them, and I found that fascinating.
How did you achieve everything in the image of the Maasai with the long shadows? How was that taken? Was that a drone shot or was that taken from an elevator?
That's a drone shot. Yeah.
It's a drone shot.
Yes.
Fantastic. I can't get enough of that.
It really does. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And you're it's very observant of you, because a photograph like that, the shadow needs to be exactly correct to mimic the length of the human shape. So you have to wait for the exact moment in the morning or the afternoon when the sun is at the right angle. Any longer when the sun's overhead, you get no shadow. And in early morning, your shadows are very, very long. So it's very specific 5-minute window there. Yeah.
Another image that comes to mind is the fishing nets, because light behind something that is so thin means the photographer has gone through so much to achieve a balance with the exposure and the different colors, to be able to achieve that balance, so that you can separate the net from the fisherman, from the sky behind, and whatever is in the foreground, and the bottom as well. So it's a book that has allowed us to appreciate what we have around us in detail that we never anticipated, in a few ways. Yeah, it's a fascinating print, and I would be excited to have some of those hanging on a wall in a private space. I'm that impressed by the photography in that book. One other that has just come to mind is one of a caravan of camels with a carcass in the foreground, and with that you start to wonder, how did they get there? So it gives you a lot more to think and talk about beyond just the image itself. How did they get there? What did they go through? Because you see the carcass and you know that it's a very harsh environment. Yet the photographer has been able to be there at the right moment to catch the caravan passing the carcass. Yeah. So
You speak about the photography in relatively technical language. You seem to appreciate light, aperture, and all these kind of things. As someone who's gone around, seen places, not just in Uganda, but Africa, how important is it, and you've posted quite a bit about your journey, your recent journey, how important is it for the documentation of some of those things to the world, to see Africa maybe in that light?
the world outside Africa has always looked at us as a dark continent, and a lot of the images that have been shared, unfortunately, haven't been pleasant images. So what has in turn happened is, when there has been effort, we have shared places that are very close to the Western world. So we either have unpleasant pictures or those that mimic something that isn't who we are. in documenting what Africa actually is and the authenticity of it and the beauty of it and the angles and everything else that we have to offer, climate and all, to depict that in picture format allows the world to appreciate how beautiful a continent we live in. Because I don't think there's many places that will give you the comfort that Africa will give you. And I don't just mean weather and climate and the like. I also mean the culture, the richness in the culture, and the value in the richness in the variety of the foods that we can get. And a book like this, it does represent us well. It does represent us well, and if we continue to document it, we are able to allow people to appreciate a lot more of what Africa has to offer. And I'll tell you this, that there's many images in that book that personally I was not even able to see yet physically, especially those from Ethiopia and South Sudan. But in viewing them, it sort of triggers a need to visit, which is also the value that it brings. If we document it right, then we can get more people visiting, appreciating, and then visiting us to experience it. This organic content is definitely valuable, and it allows us to paint Africa in the beautiful picture that it actually is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edgar. And lovely to see you again, Edgar.
That do not know the versatility of culture in terms of various destinations, not only Uganda. So documenting this increases the diversity of the products that are going to be offered. So this book is an opportunity for us to learn more of what Africa has got to offer, not only in terms of wildlife, but then also culture of the people, and then to understand it in detail. Buy a copy of this book, and there's a lot to learn through photography and through the lens of Shem.
We were stopped by the police and then told they will allow us to go in, but you need 10 military people to join the whole expedition. So all of a sudden, I was just one person. We had planned this trip, and we had a driver and a chef. And now we have a party of like 15. And we had, as we were walking, it became point and flank and sentinels. And these guys were serious in their business, so it became quite a serious endeavor. Yet we had 15 kilometers there and 15 kilometers back. Over that time, you bond with the guys and you start making jokes. And so it was a great overall experience and great fun doing it. But initially, I was just like, whoa, why am I getting a military escort up there? And they were like really on guard. And I wouldn't say nervous, but they were alert to potential danger out there. And one specific moment came where a man came walking through the desert. This is in the Danakil Depression, which is a very, very dry, hot area and not much landscape. And out of the heat haze, a man came walking with a stick over his shoulder, as you do. And I was the only one with binoculars. So they asking me to identify this potential subject to see if that is a rifle or a stick. And the heat haze is crazy. And I'm looking with binoculars, I'm thinking, I'm just a bird watcher. You know? I'm not here to identify hostile or friendly fire. So I took the risk, not the risk, I said, I gave him the benefit of the doubt through the heat haze and said, I think he's safe, don't worry. And as he came through, they frisked this guy, they checked him out properly. And all he was doing was walking through this with a stick. Yeah. Yeah. So these are just humorous encounters that you have, which at a moment in time feel like a great challenge and adventure. Yeah. But ultimately, you've got to see the humor in it, and that's what makes travel so great, is seeing the humor. And what I've loved about the travel in Africa is the humor brings out humanity. Because if you can laugh in the face of adversity, it means you sort of saying, haha, we're throwing against the universe, and we are challenging the universe, and we can laugh about that. And so I've encountered that so many times that despite the adversity, all of us have the ability to laugh in the face of it, and that's what connects us. Yeah.
I've been working in Africa for conservation for more than 15 years. And for a couple of years, I've been involved in the Kaza Elephant Survey, which was a large-scale aerial survey to count all the elephants in the Okavango Delta. And so this insights into this part of the rift is the reason why Shem Compion reached out to me, so I could write a little bit about that in his beautiful book. And so I feel very privileged to be here today in Kampala to see the launch of the rift. And it's very special to see this final product coming to be shared with everyone, and to know that I've been contributed even a little bit to this beautiful product, beautiful book. As a scientist, I think there is great value to collect data and to compile this information into any written documents so that it can be shared with anyone, not just the scientific community, but also anyone who might have an interest in the ecology, the culture, the science, the story. So I am very passionate about storytelling in general, and so that's one of the reasons I was excited to contribute to the Rift, to be part of a beautiful story about an incredible geological formation throughout Africa. And so, yeah, just the initiative of taking the time to document beautiful subjects that you're passionate about, and to share this knowledge and passion with a broader community is, I think, something we should do more whenever the opportunity arises.
I can say I'm pretty beaten because I love photography. And I've never seen a publication that is pretty elaborate in covering the Rift Valley. And I think you're extremely incredible at this kind of work. The most fascinating thing is the storytelling behind each and every picture. And that's where your incredible artistry comes out for me. That it's not just random photography, but what you craft behind your mind and say, this is what I want the world to see. And where you have this element where somebody can even get their own interpretation or whatever they want out of a given picture. But when you give your certain interpretation, then like the beads thing, me, I've been taking pictures with people with beads, but I could not really understand why they have all those bits of beads on their necks.